Hi, my name is Mark Fleming, and Rick Berry asked me to put together a little videotape presentation of my experience with their ministry and particularly with Karis. A little bit about my background so you can maybe figure out how I could help. I spent 25 years as a college basketball coach. Additionally, I have a master's degree in sports psychology and taught in the field of sports psychology extensively for many years. Coach Berry approached me, my goodness, it's probably been 8 or 9 years ago, about the possibility of me coming over to the Philippines and doing some things with their ministry. And part of the attraction would be, having been a basketball coach, I could work with different areas of basketball and also with some coaches on some sports psychology. And I wasn't sure how it would come to fruition, but we worked it out, and I was able to go over there two different times. One of the first questions I had for Coach Berry is, do people understand basketball in the Philippines? And he kind of just laughed at me and he said, but that is really the only sport of the Philippines. Even having heard that, I was a little skeptical until I arrived in the airport and saw on the airport television monitors everything was basketball, and they are just basketball crazy. Like I said, I made two trips over there, and the first trip I went for 9 days, the second trip for 10 days, and I think the first trip I spoke 14 times in 9 days, and the second trip 15 times. And although we saw a few things, it was pretty much work, which is as I preferred it. And I think that was probably the best value and the best way that I could help Coach Berry with his ministry. Um, the way that we logistically did things, we traveled with the team, and so there would be several of us speaking. Coach Berry would kind of concentrate on sportsmanship and grace, which I believe is what Karis actually stands for. And he really tried to help change some of the culture of sports over there. I would come at things from a pure coaching philosophy or sports psychology philosophy, depending upon the venue. And then we'd also have a pastor. Pastor Soriano would travel along, and he would present the gospel. Um, Having spent 25 years of coaching in college on a Christian college level, that's very important to me. Is that it wasn't just coming over there and trying to teach basketball or improve performance. It was a way that we could outreach, and I thought the way that his ministry set up was very effective because we brought a lot of people in utilizing their love for the sport of basketball. And at the end of that, we were presenting the gospel to them, we're presenting morals to them. And there were several people that made life commitments out of the ministry of that. When I went over there, we had the opportunity, we worked with college teams. I think we worked with a total of about 8 different college teams. So we would go in and I would maybe talk about a certain kind of defense, work with their coaches, work with their players, do some lecturing. And at the same time, the pastor would have a chance to present the gospel to them. That was very effective. We did coaches clinics where it was nothing but a place full of coaches, and it was kind of the same thing. I would maybe have one particular theme that I would focus on one of the years. Coach Berry would then kind of switch into a basketball mode as well as sportsmanship, and Pastor Soriano could also then present the gospel to these people. We did clinics for kids. We did outdoor clinics with just nothing but kids where we're teaching basketball to them. And then Pastor Soriano would talk to them. Some of the venues we got to was just amazing. It wasn't the fact that we were sightseeing, but we had a chance to speak and put on a clinic in the Olympic Training Center in the Philippines. We did it in colleges in some of their gyms. One of the most meaningful things we did is we went to sort of a remote village, and this will tell you about the Philippines' love of basketball. This is a dirt poor village. It's shacks, and in the middle of town, there's a concrete basketball court. And that particular day, Pastor Soriano brought a bunch of men from his church, and they had a scrimmage with the town. And then we did some speaking and that kind of stuff afterwards. But it was just fascinating to watch. Their team was playing in flip-flops. Culturally, it's just different. And not only that, playing very well in flip-flops. We got to see 4 different provinces and speak in some big clinics. We got to speak in some areas that were not primarily Muslim, but where there was a heavy Muslim influence. So, you got to make some inroads there. I highly support the ministry of Karis and what Coach Berry is doing. I can tell you this, it is effective. I can tell you this, it's not done poorly, but it is done very consciously with budgets in mind. There's not a lot of wasted time. We didn't spend a lot of time on sightseeing. If we were in an area, we could get over there quickly. But that's how it would happen. Coach Berry would ask, are you willing to do this? My philosophy, just like your philosophy, is, does it help you? I'll do it. There's a good chance I'll be going with him on his new initiative into Thailand. Now, basketball's not as big in Thailand, but from a sports psychology perspective, I can lend a lot of things there. I think soccer is a big thing over there. So, all that to say, I believe wholeheartedly in his ministry, and I can tell you he is sincere, and I ask you to support this ministry. If you can give financially, that's probably the second best thing. Like all of these overseas outreach ministries, prayer is probably the primary thing. But it does take money to run things. Thank you for listening, and again, this is about them and the great work that the Lord is doing through this program. Thank you much.